Am I doing the YouTube game wrong? Because every time I talk to somebody, I'm just like, hey, what's up? Yeah, cool talk. All right, let's talk, you know? But this guy has an interview, and it's like, what's going on, guys? It's Vosh me in the Vosh Pit. And today we're hitting you with a Russell Brand commentary. This guy's getting real big on YouTube, real big problem. They don't want you to know how much his agenda corresponds with the interests of the elite and the far right. If you care about truth, fighting disinformation, make sure to share this around, make sure to hit the like button, make sure to subscribe, make sure to donate, make sure to sign up on vosh.gg/map. Let's give it a go. I do need to make more cocaine-fueled videos. Fine. I won't tease. We'll look at a goddamn Russell Brand video. I just want to know what the seed oil one is. I just want to know what the seed oil conspiracy is. Why is he sweaty?
Agricultural protests threaten to capsize the food industry worldwide. But to suggest there's a globalist agenda...
Oh. I forgot his voice. Oh, Christ.
...is a conspiracy theory, right? Hello there, you 5.7 million awakening wonders. Thank you for joining me on this voyage towards truth. If no one's told you you're fantastic today, let me be the first to tell you that I respect you. I see that you are awakening. I feel that there is a change. And as much as things are crazy out there, as much as we're being flooded by disinformation and doubt, as much as we're being criticized and condemned, we are equal to their challenge and we are arising beautifully. If you're not a subscriber yet, please subscribe right now and turn on the notification.
I should start a cult. What do I need? What do I need? Do I need, like, different eyebrows? What's the energy that I need? This guy makes a ton of money off his shit. I feel like I've already sufficiently covered how this guy has cult leader energy and how he never actually says anything and that all he really does is launder far-right conspiracies with vaguely left populist rhetoric. This guy's one neo-Nazi pamphlet away from JQing. Yeah, I think that, like, ideologically, this guy is, like, probably closer to, like, neo-Nazi than he is anything else. The susceptibility to conspiracism is always going to drive people to the far right. The far right needs conspiracies to thrive. The conspiracies on the far right involve, like, global, satanic, Jewish, like, cabals. The conspiracies on the far left are like, have you guys ever noticed how, like, rich people are powerful and they use that power to consolidate more power? Liberals can't tell the difference.
Bell is vital for us to have every means possible to subvert the tendencies of the algorithm, to ride above it and to rise above it.
Wait, what do you mean subvert the tendency? Why would you want to subvert? It's working well for you. Okay, whatever.
When you hear things like, oh, the agricultural protests are a result of a globalist agenda that has the intention of collapsing the farming industry and taking farms from small-scale farm holders and putting it in the hands of centralist interests, and that's why there's these protests, you think, nah, that must be a conspiracy theory. That's why experts like Vandana Shiva...
Hey, by chance, do you think the agricultural protests he's referring to are those, like, far-right Dutch ones? Or what country was that? What country where there were some agricultural protests and they were being led mostly by the far right? Well, Netherlands? Okay, yeah. It's probably that, right? He's probably backing that one. Of all the agricultural protests in the world, of all the, like, food struggles in the world, we're going to back the one that's, like, definitively led by the far right? Alright, I'm sure it's a coincidence.
Who can describe to you exactly how this process is being undertaken are invaluable. I had a massive conversation with Vandana Shiva, 33 minutes long, naturally. Come on, don't be a conspiracy theorist. She explained to us exactly how there is a plan to turn everything into data. There is a plan to collapse independent farms worldwide.
Wait, turn everything into data? What the heck? What? If it's being recorded, then everything is data. What does that mean? I have no idea what... I genuinely don't know what that means. Is that Kingdom Hearts? Is this a Kingdom Hearts reference? Why is he so sweaty? Maybe it's warm over there, too.
And the pretense that it's to bring about ecologically responsible practices is a disingenuous one. Because our previous interview with Vandana was so successful, we've decided to give you the whole video for free right here, right now. This is the whole conversation, unedited, for you. Please share it around, particularly if you care about the agricultural industry, particularly if you know people that are farmers, particularly if you know protesters that are concerned about this.
Am I doing the YouTube game wrong? Because every time I talk to somebody, I'm just like, hey, what's up? Yeah, cool talk. All right, let's talk, you know? But this guy has an interview, and it's like, now, make sure to hit the like button, share this with just about everyone you've ever known. Watching this video is going to be critical to defeating the... Like, do I not pump my shit up enough? Yeah, I need to do more cocaine. I do need to make more more cocaine-fueled videos.
Particularly if you know now that the ecological justifications that are being given are disingenuous, illegitimate, and plainly untrue, then you should be sharing this video with as many people as possible. Stay right.
Yeah. What's going on, guys? It's Voshvi in the Vosh bit. And today we're hitting you with a Russell Brand commentary. This guy's getting real big on YouTube, real big problem. They don't want you to know how much his agenda corresponds with the interests of the elite and the far right. If you care about truth and fighting disinformation, make sure to share this around. Make sure to hit the like button. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to donate. Make sure to sign up on vosh.gg/map. Let's give it a go.
To the end, because we only give you content that's going to enrich you, evolve you, and make you smarter and better equipped to cope with this world. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. Let me know who else you want to see us talk to. There's a link in the description to The Seeds of Vandana Shiva, a film about her. And please stay to the very end and hit me up in the comments and let me know what you think about this important video. Thank you.
Vandana Shiva, I'm so honored that you have joined us today.
I'm very happy to be here physically with you, Russell.
I feel like
well, the name for the dot is the bindi, right? If the bindi is bigger, does that mean you're more elite? Is it like a power ranking? Like theoretically, if there was a red dot that eclipsed like half your face, you would be like a demigod. Vandana Shiva. I've heard this name before. I don't know anything about. All right, let's see. Okay, so Indian activist, of course. So I'm assuming we're not talking about the Netherlands protest. Okay. Indian scholar, environmental activist, food sovereignty advocate, eco-feminist, and anti-globalization author. This isn't inherently a bad thing, by the way. Globalism and anti-globalization, like, these things get heavily politicized. It's possible to be anti-globalization in ways that are, like, meaningful and not, like, insane conspiracy bait. But it really depends on how it goes. Often referred to as the Gandhi of grain for anti-GMO. Whoa! Buddy, your country's got like 1.3 billion people in it. You want GMOs. Okay, trust me. All right, hold on. She's argued in favor of many traditional practices in her interview. She's a member of the scientific committee of Foundation Ideas, Spain's Socialist Party's think tank. Regarded as... Okay. So are we going to get someone who's like kind of based politically, but has turned that into some weird ecological prescriptions? Wearing a gamer headset here. Holy shit. About to light some fools up in CSGO. Or this is 2007, sorry. This would be CSS. Intellectual property rights, stay alive. Change perception of third world women, gender unit. Oh no! In 2021, she advised the government of Sri Lanka to ban inorganic fertilizers and pesticides. She helped cause the current famine. Oh no. Oh my god. Oh my god, she's going to have a fucking 5-digit death count. Oh god. Jesus Christ. They're going to be mass graves with her name on it. She said, this decision will definitely help farmers become more prosperous. How? Use of organic fertilizer will help provide agri-products rich with nutrients while retaining the fertility of land. What? The policy applied overnight with the main purpose to save state foreign exchange bills and imported fertilizers, causing a crisis with significant reduction of farming output in several sectors, hitting the tea industry in particular, and reducing rice yields by 1/3. The ban was overturned 7 months later. Jesus. Man, being one of the main leaders in causing a famine has to be like the worst imaginable thing you could find on an ecological and environmental activist's Wikipedia page. Like, she's a true socialist. Oh, God. Well, all right. Okay. She has 94 IMDb credits. Oh, she's an activist. It seems like she's pretty prolific in documentaries, which, you know. Oh, what is this? Is this the seed oil conspiracy? Oh, no, it's just about seeds in general. Okay, that's fine. Now we know. I hear she's a climate change denier. Really? That seems like a weird thing for her to be. I don't know if that's true. She hates nuclear energy and fertilizers as both were originally designed for war. She often compares fertilizers with nuclear energy? What? We've been using fertilizers for thousands of years. You get cow shit and you put it in the ground. It's not even inorganic. She's pointed out fertilizers are being used by terrorists to make explosives. You can do that with hydrogen. She called for a ban on fertilizers, which is a weapon of mass destruction? Okay, she's actually insane. She's just scared of potassium nitrate. There are lots of explosive materials. I promise you guys, fertilizer saves more lives than it ends, okay? If fertilizers were wiped out, there would be plenty of other things people could make bombs out of, but there would not be other things people could fertilize the soil with. Let's just move along. Yeah, you can make explosives out of, like, a ton of shit. It's not...
You are one of the most important voices in the activist movement, and particularly with regard to the challenges we face with the ongoing rise of globalism and its observable consequences. I'd like to start off, if I may, by asking you about the current Dutch agricultural protests.
Oh, no, never mind. Dutch agriculture, right off the bat. Okay, never mind. Right off the bat.
As a person that's only taken my information about this protest movement from the mainstream media, I would see this issue seems to have been framed as, well, there are new ecological regulations that need to be introduced to prevent Dutch farmers irresponsibly using harmful toxic fertilizers, and that their protests have been framed very negatively by the media. Can you tell me, is there a different perspective on that you could share?
Well, there are many different ways of looking at and responding to the crisis we face. We do face a serious crisis caused by industrial agriculture. 50% greenhouse gases come from farming with fossil fuels and chemicals.
Okay, I think she believes in climate change.
And shifting food long distance, transforming it with ultra-processing, packaging it. All of this has added up to greenhouse gases. But that same system that is punishing the farmer is as punishing the earth and is punishing the consumers through disease. When did it start? The chemical fertilizers are a byproduct of Hitler's regime. The IG Farben group of cartel of corporations, combined with Standard Oil of the US, use fossil fuels to fix atmospheric nitrogen by burning fossil fuels at very high temperature. Now, there are better ways.
What? Sorry, we're pulling on sectors of information that I don't have any pre-existing knowledge of. I'm gonna guess that's not true, though. I'm going to guess that artificial fertilizers were not made by Hitler. Am I wrong? Did Nazi Germany invent the first artificial fertilizer? Even if they did, what does that do? What does that reflect on their use? Pull up the crack pipe. That's true. There we go. Now we're ready for these. Somebody in YouTube chat asks, why are GMOs good? Okay, I just want to cover this right off the bat, okay? GMOs are dope as hell, okay? All the food that we eat nowadays has been genetically modified. Bananas, strawberries, wheat, all of it, when we found it in the earth, originally, when we started cultivating it, it sucked. They sucked. They were shitty. They were hard to grow outside of a very specific climate. They barely produced any yield. They were unreliable. We selectively bred these plants to make them better. We made all of our fruit better and juicier and more efficient. All of it's good. And all this is through natural evolutionary processes, okay? Genetically modified organisms can include, like, direct genetic modifications, or it can just be, like, selective breeding of different plants, you know, depending on, like, how it's actually being done. GMOs can be a problem, but in the same way that, like, literally any kind of industrial process can be a problem, where things can be over-designed or there can be negative externalities. There are issues with GMOs right now, but a lot of them are political. So, for example, intellectual property laws when it comes to GMOs are kind of... because you can copyright a genetic strain of banana and then like you can't make the banana. Only one company can make that banana because that banana is patented. And then like if their extremely virile seed lands in your farm, you can't harvest the bananas that are theirs because it's their banana. That's a real thing that's happened, by the way. The point of genetically modified seeds is that they're very resilient. I mean, that's one of the things that you value in them, right? You want them to, like, withstand climate change, be able to be grown pretty much anywhere. So as a product of that, you'll have situations where, like, you'll have adjacent, like, farm plots. You guys know this has happened, right? You'll have adjacent farm plots where the very, like, efficient GMO fruit or whatever will spread to neighboring plots, but legally those farmers can't like integrate that into their crop rotation. It's like a weed to them, but it's better than any weed. It's more efficient and it goes to waste. And like then there are legal issues because it's like that's patented to them. Like most of the issue with GMOs is a legal thing. It's a problem with capitalism. But in terms of like how do we produce enough food to feed the human species, GMOs are critical. Like it's inarguable. If you want to, unless you want like the biggest famine in the history of the species, you need GMOs. And they're fine. They don't like harm you in any way. Your body is not in any way hurt by eating a fruit that has undergone selective mutations to be better of the fruit that it is. That's totally okay. It's not gonna hurt you. And organic fertilizers are fine. Now, there are pesticides and fertilizers that are very, very, very damaging to the environment, and we've been trying to restrict their use. America is behind Europe in a lot of cases on this. There are fertilizers and pesticides in Europe that are banned because they're bad for the environment that we in America still use. It's an ongoing process to try to ban these all out. What's with the crack pipe? We're watching a Russell Brand video. But yeah, look at like, can I find like non-GMO, like watermelon? Like everything used to suck. Let me see. Original banana. Can I get like, yeah, pre-domestication bananas were like this. They were like, I think they were really bitter, and they were full of seeds, and they were really small. They were like plantations, but worse, basically. Yeah, they kind of sucked. Original strawberries. Wow, I misspelled that. I'm not getting the... What if I looked up, like, original wild strawberries? Would that... I think they were like this. Like, original strawberries were really small. Like, they looked more like other berries, I think. Where they were kind of like, yeah, they were like that. Like, modern strawberries are, like, several times larger and more nutrient-dense. Original wild wheat. This is the big one, right? Because a ton of people rely on wheat and stuff. Yeah. Wild wheat versus later domesticated varieties. You can see right here that the original wild wheat, in terms of, like, the size and quantity of the grains, were dog shit compared to what we have right now. Like, look, like, imagine, like, if you have a country where you're trying to, like, feed hundreds of millions of people, imagine, like, yeah, your yield is this, and it can only be grown in some times of the year in some environments, and it's not as reliable, and it's more vulnerable to, disease and pesticides and shit, or like, bug infection. And then, like, you've this over here, literally, like, 10 times the usable material per harvest, and it grows faster. Original wild corn. Look at corn, man. Corn's come a long way. Look at, like, literally. Guys, we have your non-GMO corn. We have your ready organic corn. Enjoy. You can tell which one's the old and which one's the new. I hope. Oh, this is great. Who linked this? Was that Fox Potato? Look, original watermelons in a painting. These were domesticated recently enough that we have paintings from a few hundred years ago of what they used to be like. See? The rind would extend all the way into the core and like a radial, like, hexagon. The usable meat would just be like little bites full of seeds into it. And now our watermelons are literally like a perfect, like, basketball of like watermelon meat with a tiny bit of rind on the end, you know? Isn't that incredible? This right here, like, unironically, this is like a miracle of human ingenuity. There's no harm to the environment being done here. Nothing has been made worse. No damage has been done. It's just a straightforward improvement of existing resources. And we did it through careful, genetic manipulation of these plants. Olive oil. GMOs refer to selective breeding as well. a lot of what people say when they say GMO is these aren't examples of GMOs. No, GMOs refer to these selective breeding processes as well. When people like fearmonger about GMOs, they think there's some like magical other thing that's happening. But in reality, it's just a combination of processes that are made to selectively choose some genetic characteristics over others. There are types of GMOs that are like more mutagenic Frankenstein type stuff, but that is not as common as people think. A lot of what people talk about is just stuff like this. It's like how organic doesn't have a real definition. Yeah, organic doesn't have like a real, yeah. GMOs decrease biodiversity. That can be an issue, but a lot of that has to do with our farming practices, not with the actual act of making our food more, useful to us. When regular people talk about GMO, they refer to modern genetic changes like making fruit bigger at the expense of taste and nutrients. But we've done that though. The process of making fruit bigger at the expense of taste and nutrients is a thing that you can do through selective breeding. If you're looking to select for large, it's the same. Like here, I want to get back to the video, but we can like really quick. nationalgeographic.org. A GMO is an animal, plant, or microbe whose DNA has been altered using genetic engineering techniques. For thousands of years, humans have used breeding methods to modify organisms. Corn, cattle, and even dogs have been selectively bred over generations to have certain desired traits. However, in the last few decades, modern advances in biotechnology have allowed scientists to directly modify the DNA of microorganisms, crops, and animals. People think that this is something fundamentally different. It's just a way of speeding up the prior process. It's possible through natural selection and breeding to produce genetically aberrant types of corn or like whatever else, you know? The only difference is that we've gotten better at it. But changing DNA through thousands of years of selective crop breeding and changing through DNA through direct modification isn't like a fundamentally different process. We've just changed the methods by which we do it. It's not like there's not like a magic, thing. And the negative things that can come about from modern forms of genetic alteration could also happen with older forms. It's just that over thousands of years, we've mostly discarded with the failed experiments, you know? That's what science is. Eugenics is wrong, full stop, Vosh. Yeah. I think what they mean is that GMOs turn the frogs gay. I mean, so to try to back this up a little bit, to be a little bit more clear, I don't mean to say that there can't be negative consequences to genetically altering organisms. There were negative consequences even to the older process of doing it through selective breeding. Both have the potential to lead the genetic characteristics of a food in a bad direction, which can lead to environmental consequences and a reduction of biodiversity. However, the alteration of the gene code of the food that we eat has been necessary for human survival and for human civilizations to flourish. So the question is, can we do GMOs responsibly? And the answer is, for the most part, we have. Overwhelmingly, the influence of both old and new methods of changing the way that our food grows have been to the benefit of our species. I find most of the issues with GMOs, in both the old and new sense, are legal ones. They're issues with how we use the technology, how we apply it. But it's necessary that we do so, that we use this technology, because we simply cannot sustain our population if we get away with the process. The danger is not the process. The danger is the material choices being made in the context of the process. Yeah, like you have to select for good things. Yeah, so that's the hope. You're not wrong that most of the issues are legal ones, but it's not true that genetic manipulation is just sped up selective breeding. On a fundamental level, you're simply using a new and more expansive set of tools to make the same types of changes that we've always been able to do. We can do them faster, and we can do them in a wider range. We can experiment with a broader set of parameters, but it's the same basic type of change. The only reason I'm hammering on this is because people often believe that there's like organically changing the DNA of a plant and like artificially changing the DNA of a plant. But that distinction really isn't like a meaningful one in terms of the actual alterations made. Natural selective processes can produce things that are biologically unviable, and direct genetic alterations can produce changes that are common sense and useful. No, Vosh, we're literally combining genes of different species. Selective breeding preserves the genes. Wait, what? cross-mixing different types of plants to produce hybrids has been a thing for, I don't know if it's been thousands of years. It's at the very least hundreds of years. Yeah, we've done that. That's not new at all. I know people in my subreddit are going to be furious with me because I don't have like a PhD level understanding of this subject, but yeah, in my experience, you can't cross mix like GMO can. Yeah, well, direct genetic alterations allow for more specificity and more range in how you make these changes, but you're still making changes to the gene code. There's nothing wrong with that. Like people like it's the same, like it's the same thing you're doing. You're trying to affect the same basic set of processes. You're just doing it with a more precise, more expansive set of tools. Past the crack, I need a hit. Yeah. Genes are just data. There's no such thing as a gene belonging to a species. Yeah, like DNA is DNA. You know, you mix and match, yeehaw. All right, let's keep going. I'm just explaining GMO is distinct from selective breeding for a good reason, but it doesn't mean it's bad. It's distinct in that it allows us more power in achieving the same ends we've been attempting to achieve through selective breeding. We're simply improving upon the processes that humans have had for a long time.
Ways to fix nitrogen, and that is, well, let the earthworms give you 40 kilograms per hectare.
Oh, right, we were talking about Hitler fertilizer. Okay, sorry, we're back now.
Let the soil mycorrhiza work. So what's happened is the same people who are pushing a very anti-nature, anti-people, anti-life globalization agenda shaped a system that has caused a problem, forced the farmers into that system to use chemical fertilizers, to get the cows off the grass and into factory farms, then feed them with GMO soya that's chopping down the Amazon.
Wait, what? Farmers haven't been forced to use artificial fertilizers. They like using the artificial fertilizers. That's why they're protesting the removal of those artificial fertilizers. They like it because it's cheaper and it produces a larger yield. Farmers they're trying to produce a product to sell in the market. They will benefit from things that are bad for nature if it increases their yield. Farmers aren't like environmental activists.
40% of soya goes for animal feed. Another 40% goes for biofuel. It's not feeding the world. All of this was forced on people through regulation. It was forced through subsidies. 50% of the European tax money was going to create this kind of agriculture. Now, the same people who caused the problem are saying
50% of the tax money was going towards subsidies? What? She's going to say some crazy shit every 3 seconds. I don't want to fact check everything. We're going off vibes from now on. I'm just going to vibe my way through this and say no. There is no way that 50% of the taxes of the EU, whatever that means, we're going towards subsidizing this.
Farmers, you're responsible. It's a bit like saying to a person who went obese because of junk food, to say you are responsible. No, the junk food industry is responsible. The Pepsis and the Cokes are responsible. The fertilizer. These are identifiable players. And there's a principle of justice called polluter pays. The original cause of pollution is the manufacturers and the governments who subsidized it, and the governments that promoted the false idea that without chemicals you can't grow food, and billionaires today who are promoting that same false idea, Bill Gates. So there are huge numbers of alternatives, but farmers need to be given a 5 to 10 year period of transition, and the structures that were created.
Wait, then why were you one of the people advocating the removal of artificial fertilizers from Sri Lanka, which went into effect immediately? Maybe she would have preferred if it had taken a while. Maybe she learned from that. Maybe she was like, yeah, get rid of artificial fertilizers, and then Sri Lanka people are starving. And she's like, okay, give it 5 to 10 years of removing artificial fertilizers.
To promote chemicals should be used to promote ecological agriculture. You need new research.
Please, Vosh, I urge you to look up CRISPR. I know about CRISPR. You're just wrong about current techniques being the same but faster. It's not the same. They can select any DNA code to insert into a chosen place in the DNA code. That is not how we're improving our corn. We're not putting corn in the CRISPR box to like put like wolf DNA into the corn to like create Frankenstein. The changes that we're making to existing crops are ones that are in line with attempted processes. Did I say wolf corn? Wolf DNA. That we've been trying to do through selective like processes. The tools are stronger, but we're trying to do the same basic thing. That's all I'm saying.
need new schools. And you definitely cannot punish the victim. Farmers are a victim of this system.
So these are systemic problems that have complex origins that even include that great moniker of 20th century evil.
We do put virus DNA in our crops to make them more resistant to those viruses. Based. Wait, if I recall correctly, crop breeding is done with CRISPR. Yeah, I'm saying they don't put wolf DNA in. No, chat, please. God help me. Why are you resisting chat just correcting you? Because the joke was that we're not putting, like, dog knots in our wolf. Like, the person was implying that through CRISPR, we're, like, making these crazy alterations that everything we're doing now, we were trying to do before. If people in the 18th century had access to CRISPR technology, they would be using the shit out of it. Also, even if you're splicing tiny bits of gene material, that's not like... I guess I just want to know what people who are anti-GMO think is being done to our crops. Like, what changes are being made to the genetic code of our crops that they think are harmful to us? Because I always get this, like, extremely arbitrary, yeah, they make you gay, autism, whatever. Like, I don't know what they think's being done. The alterations that are being done are the same that have always been done. Guys, who was in charge of determining the like gene of crop yields that were used back hundreds of years ago? What interests were served? Those of the aristocracy. Obviously, funding the research, applying it, everything. It's not like the common serfs were like, we're like, yeah, you know, we're tracking genetic alterations to the wheat yields, and we think that applying this in a, you know, tri-seasonal rotation will be the most... No, things were being done to maximize the output for the benefit of the elite. Why do modern farmers use given strains of wheat or whatever else? Because they sell the best at market, so you have to maximize for qualities like taste and size and yield and resilience and so on and so forth. It's the same basic priorities that are being done. Our ancestors were not intentionally reducing genetic diversity to make a profit. No, they were unintentionally. Nobody is intentionally reducing genetic diversity. It's just a byproduct. It was an accidental product of what happens when you make sick-ass superfoods like we do. They absolutely were doing that, though. Nothing is new. Nothing fundamental has changed. We're just doing better at the same thing we've always been doing. Why would the elites need more corn if not to give it more farmers? Because it's in the benefit of the elites in feudal societies if they have robust stores of grain to survive winter. We just want you to be more careful in making statements about science. I don't think I've said anything that's incorrect here, except for when I made a joke about splicing wolf DNA with wheat and people interpreted that as me saying that CRISPR isn't used on wheat. I don't actually think I've said anything inaccurate. GMOs make direct changes to genes. Selective breeding relies on random changes. That's incorrect. Okay, if selective breeding relies on random changes, but you only keep the outputs that have the desired outcomes, isn't that the same as making direct changes, just stretched over a longer period of time? Like, you're still doing the same thing. It's not as though with the that's selective breeding. That's why it's selective breeding. In both cases, you're making genetic alterations. And guys, you can do some wild shit just with selective breeding, okay? You know how pugs can barely breathe because their neck fat is choking them out and their nose is recessed into their skull? We produced that with selective breeding. We can selective breed wild shit. It's not like only direct gene editing allows for some wacky stuff, okay? We've always had the power to produce types of plants and animals that are biologically unviable. That's always been something we've done. You can look throughout history. There have been famines caused by stuff like this. Poor understanding of the genetic output, the yield, the what have you. You know, this isn't new. We're just doing it better. I understand the tools are different, but you guys need to understand the difference between the tools being different and the thing being different. That's why that National Geographic article that we looked at began talking about GMOs by referring to selective breeding, because it's the same fundamental process. People are just fear-mongering over new technology allowing for the same basic thing. It's the same basic thing. It's not scary. Everything that's scary about modern GMOs has existed before modern GMOs. Maybe we can do it more now, but that's what happens when tools get stronger. You have the potential for more good to be done and more harm to be done, but it's the same basic thing. Can we move on, please? Monsanto's do GMO that can't grow without their fertilizer. Yeah, like I said, that'd be a legal issue. That's like a capitalism thing, not a GMO thing.
The Nazi Party. But at the point that we hear about it, it is reductively conveyed as an issue for which the agricultural industry in the hands of individual farmers is what's culpable. It's so interesting the way that information is rendered. And also, Vandana, sometimes I have to marvel almost at the mendacity of a system that can create problems, present solutions, and at every step of the way, it's to the ongoing advantage of centralized financial and sometimes state powers, and to the continuing disadvantage of us as individuals and as the inhabitants and partners of the planet. It's extraordinary.
Remarkable how little he can say. Did you know that systems made by the elite benefit the elite? That's like 2/3 of every video he makes. But he does it in like a conspiratorial way.
To me, sometimes it's because some of the connections that you have just made in answering that question are difficult to make, and sometimes it's because those stories are simply never told. So in short, you're saying that really we should be supporting those farmers and recognizing how this admittedly ecologically difficult practice came about.
Absolutely. And I think we definitely need to see the world that the greedy want to create. All of natural resources in their hands, all of land in their hands. The same billionaires who are telling the farmers, forget the land, take money and leave it, want that land. The same people who say, oh, food is unnecessary, we're going to make lab food, are the very people who are then also investing in land to have real food. It's the ultimate colonization that's happening, and it's
Yeah, it's true. People with power make systems that benefit the powerful.
Condensing everything that's gone wrong. In my view, the witch hunts were really killing those people who lived and taught the life that we are part of nature. The witches were teachers of oneness with nature. They were the ones who were hunted down. And that for a century or 2 centuries, 9 million people killed in Europe. It was a killing of the ecological mind. The colonialism, then the chemical agriculture from Hitler's Germany. The new GMO.
What is the relationship between... She's like trying to link the Holocaust to fertilizer, which I guess in her Rational Wiki article, she was linking weapons of mass destruction to fertilizer. So I guess she just really hates fertilizer. Do you think she like fell into one of those like fertilizer wheelbarrows when she was a kid? Like she tripped and fell into it? She's referring to this. She's wrong. The Haber process. Artificial nitrogen fixation process. Production for ammonia today. German chemist Fritz Haber and Karl Bosch, who developed it in the first decade of the 20th century. Wait, the first decade of the 20th century? That was before the Nazi Party. The process converts atmospheric nitrogen to ammonia. Reaction with hydrogen using a metal catalyst. There are high temperatures and pressures. Okay. During World War I, the Haber process provided Germany with a source of ammonia for the production of explosives. Is that it? Got lots of chemicals can be made. Gas, like, should we not use chlorine in our chemical processes because it can be used to make mustard gas? I'm not watching the Veritasium video. He invented mustard gas? Wow, this guy was a hard worker. Jesus. Haber was a German nationalist who pioneered chemical weapons and modified the process to enable munition productions instead of ammonia. Aren't a lot of innovations made during wartime? Like, these are just chemicals. Like, are chemicals inherently evil? I think that's literally the logic of this lady. That like the chemicals are inherently evil because chemically evil, yeah.
More push, the earlier push, the new push. All of this is combining to say we will disenfranchise you, we will not let you make your living, we will not let you have a livelihood, because with the earth, with her animals, with her trees, we can create life. The fact that people are marching in every country on cost of living should become a deeper question. The right to...
Do you know what will happen to the cost of food if GMOs and fertilizers are banned? Guys, we can do some basic econ here. What happens to the cost of commodities when the supply plummets? There'd be riots in the streets.
Live.
And then we die.
When so many powerful forces combine to create a power matrix, why is it that these ideas are continually dismissed as conspiracy theories? When you just described, the killing of the ecological mind through the witch hunt, when you described that, explained that colonization is in a sense an extrapolation on the dominion that's already been established with the domestic population, and what we are seeing now is a billionaire class land grab, where the idea that we will have unmediated relationships with nature becomes less and less likely. Why is it so difficult?
There is no such thing as an unmediated relationship with nature. Anybody who advocates for something like that should be thrown out of a plane with one parachute they've been not told how to use, and they can land directly in the Amazon. Okay? Good luck. Have fun. There's no such thing. Humans suck in nature. You know why? Because nature sucks. Nature, all right? Nature gets to exist as we as we allow it. Nature exists in the context of our enjoyment. And that's good. That's a good thing. We invented AC and we're not going back. But the animals? Yeah, then let it exist. I think it's good for humans if nature exists, but I'm sure as shit not sleeping in the forest. There's no such thing as an unmediated relationship with nature.
To have these conversations, and why is it so difficult to achieve alliances when it seems that so many of us have shared interests? Why is it that why is there not right now a global agricultural movement that ordinary people are engaged in?
Well, I think
Again, notice how he says literally nothing. The only thing that he said there was, why do people say it's a conspiracy theory that elites do things that benefit the elites? Why is there not a mass movement to do what? Why would there be a mass movement to get rid of what? Inorganic fertilizers? Why would farmers willingly, destroy their crop yield? Why would they do that? Of course there's no mass movement. The reason the far right was protesting in Netherlands was because they were upset they would have to get rid of their artificial fertilizers. The government needed to ban it for them to stop using it.
I think the three reasons why the natural alliances are not emerging without effort, and we will have to put love and effort into it. I mean, my next commitment is to reach out to conventional farmers and show them it is possible to have ecological agriculture rich in nitrogen. In our movement, Navdanya, the nitrogen in our soil through ecological methods is 100% more than it was 20 years ago. And in the chemically farmed soils, it's 22% less. In effect, nitrogen fertilizers are a way of extracting soil nitrogen by killing the soil organisms. Why don't people know this? Number one, the science was distorted. When I started this work, in 84.
What is she talking about? I mean, she's literally caused a famine in Sri Lanka. I don't know why anyone would take her seriously when it comes to ecological sustainable farming.
The text used to say soil is an empty container. The soil is living, the richest ecosystem. Without fertilizers, you cannot feed the world. And that is what was taught in every agriculture university. It was all our public money was used to push agriculture in that direction. The second reason why...
Does she believe that soil nutrients aren't the bedrock of agricultural yield? Wait. Does she think that I'm missed here. Is she arguing that it doesn't really matter if there are nutrients in the soil, or is she arguing the opposite? It's hard to say because they both talk. Okay, hold on.
And just ecosystem. Without fertilizers, you cannot feed the world. In 84. The text used to say soil is an empty container. The soil is living, the richest ecosystem. Without fertilizers, you cannot feed the world. And that is what was taught in every agriculture university. It was all our public money was used to push agriculture in that direction. The second reason why people don't know and we're not having these conversations is the billionaires have bought the mainstream media. They've totally bought the mainstream media. And even the social media.
Why would billionaires buy the mainstream media to convince people that fertilizer is good for crops? Why would... Guys, our master plan is in effect. You know this thing humanity has known for thousands of years? Okay, we're going to control the world so that people will think that thing everyone already thinks.
Yeah. Is their media. And Google has said, we have to defeat Mother Nature. That's their project.
Can you
that's not true. Wait, no. This isn't true at all. What about organic fertilizers? Organic fertilizers have been used for thousands of years. You're not defeating nature by seeding the soil with cow shit. You're not defeating nature at all when you do that. That's the thing we do. If that's defeating Mother Nature, then so is the concept of agriculture. Which, I mean, we kind of need it. Yeah, but she likes organic fertilizers. Yeah, but like, she needs to talk about that instead of all this conspiracy bullshit. If she actually cares about using organic fertilizers over inorganic fertilizers, why isn't she celebrating the Netherlands government's decision to ban nitrogen ammonia emissions through restricting some types of agricultural products? Like, why was it that when this protest by the far-right farmers got brought up, or whatever, I mean, it wasn't far-right farmers, it was farmers and kind of hijacked by the far-right. Why was it that when this got brought up, why did they talk about the farmers as though they're victims of big, elite Jewish cabal or whatever, convincing them that they need inorganic fertilizers? The farmers wanted those fertilizers because they increased crop yield. Why wouldn't they be celebrating this? Like, does anyone else think that's weird? If her spiel is getting rid of inorganic fertilizers, and the Netherlands government did that, and there's a protest, and that protest came up in the beginning of the convo, and her response wasn't to give any word of praise to Netherlands, but rather than to sympathize with the farmers who are protesting? Vosh is so bricked up to disagree, he isn't even listening with good faith. Wait, what? Wait, am I misremembering this? Am I wrong? The Dutch government's not banning artificial fertilizers? Yeah, but they're curbing it. They're reducing it. They're taking a step here. Why were the farmers protesting? They don't like the fact that environmental restrictions are being placed by Netherlands. I think it was only Russell who mentioned the Dutch. Didn't she comment on it and talk about the like them being hooked on big agri fake fertilizer or something? Wait, am I wrong here? Russell asked about the farmers. She ranted about fertilizers. Russell reframed it, but okay, so we should support the farmers, and she said yes. Why would she say we should support the farmers when the thing the farmers are protesting is that they want to be able to put more nitrogen and ammonia into the air and the soil and the water? Isn't that weird? Maybe she's confused. Yeah, she's not the only one. Okay. Like, to be fair, if I ever misunderstand something they're saying, they are deliberately ambiguous with a lot of the stuff they say. To be fair. Sorry, I'm looking at YouTube chat. There are people there who also think ill of what I'm saying. I'm genuinely confused. They do talk in circles, and they are vaguely conspiratorial with no specifics, so it is hard for me to fully keep up with what they're saying, but I don't get it. The Netherlands took a pro-environmental step here. Everything this lady claims to be about, the Netherlands took a step towards with this by curbing the exact chemical emissions that she's complaining about. But when they came up, like, it seemed like the first word was to sympathize with the protesting farmers who want more of the emissions. That just seems like a weird contradiction. That's all I was pointing out. I don't think she might not know what the protesters are protesting about. I feel like it should be her job to know what they're talking about, right? Like, she's literally the environmentalist, get rid of the nitrogen and ammonia lady, and they have a big protest about that exact thing. I feel like she should know that. Yeah, Vosh, you're not informed enough on this issue. What did I do? All right. Well, she might be saying the farmers need support to offset the harm from the ban. Then why didn't she say that? Why did she instead... okay. Let's just continue. What did I do?
The example of Bill Gates demonstrate to us, or at least explain to us, how there is billionaire power in the purchasing of land, control of the media, control or influence at least of a global agenda. Can you talk us through the various aspects of how that kind of centralized financial power is achieved?
Yeah.
So again, the use of inorganic fertilizers actually has nothing to do with a global agenda or central power or whatever else. Even in a perfectly decentralized, like, local, agricultural system, farmers would still want to use the fertilizers that maximize their yields for fairly obvious reasons. Do they ever define the global agenda? Of course they don't.
Microsoft became as rich as it is first because basically Gates just pirated software. Basic was a public software created by college professors. But he also then became richer because in the first free trade agreement, which is globalization, written by corporations, in the first WTO meeting, he ensured that information would not be taxed. So all of the money they were making out of exchange of information was becoming absolute profit. And it's zero taxation for them. They became billionaires. Then they started to influence
I don't know enough about this to comment on it, but it's not relevant to the main point, so I'll just...
other areas. And other areas included his creating GATE-SAG 1, one agriculture for the whole world. He started to push the use of digital technologies where they were not necessary. And worse, where they took away our freedoms. I have a whole chapter in my book on the digitalization of money.
Wait, what does the pushing of software, which is true, have to do with global agriculture? What? Wait, what is the relationship between Microsoft trying to make its product ubiquitous and its software ubiquitous with agricultural standardization and through fertilizer? There might be some, like, incredibly obscure, circuitous route from getting to A to B there, but let's wait here.
But now he's dreaming of digitalization of agriculture. Why don't you need farmers? He talks about farming without farmers. Because he has a model of an agriculture where there'll be digital surveillance, there'll be drones, there will be driverless tractors, no people, but even more capital-intensive and chemical-intensive farming. And so
Automation of farm work is a good thing. You can automate farm work. You can automate agricultural production, which we've already have to a large extent, by the way, without making it more environmentally unfriendly. In fact, the most environmentally friendly agricultural work possible would be fully automated, because automation increases efficiency, and higher degrees of efficiency means there would be fewer externalities with fuel costs and energy costs associated with the gathering of the agricultural resources. The more efficient agriculture is, the more a smaller plot of land can produce more food for more people with less energy. Efficiency is always a good thing. Listen, efficiency is proletarian, okay? The less efficient our productive processes are, the more need there is for menial proletarian labor. And the more efficient they are, the less need there is. Obviously, under capitalism, we continue to do menial labor when it is not necessary, but in an ideal system, which is pro-worker, automation would be done to service the needs of the proletariat. That is a good thing. Trust me, guys. Farming? Listen, okay, just so you guys know, farmers, like the people who own the farms, are not the ones out there picking apples. They do that for the commercials. A lot of farms are very big, okay? The kind of the scale of agriculture that people deal in these days, oftentimes, is large enough that if you own a farm, you're not like some straw hat wearing salt of the earth guy, like managing 20 acres of like grapes or whatever, okay? We're talking about colossal, monstrously large fields of resources that are tended to largely by migrant workers and owned by very, very, very wealthy farmers. You know, a lot of SDL was showing me the average farmer's wealth in the US is 5 million. Yeah, the consolidation of wealth happened in agriculture just as much as it did in every other industry. Things are more efficient when a smaller number of firms or farms or whatever manage a larger amount of resources. Same is the case with companies, banks, everything else. So invariably, farmers would go from the people tending the land to the people owning the labor of those who tend the land. It's an inevitable product of capitalist, labor dynamics. So I don't really give a shit about farmers, to be honest with you. The farmers probably make 10 times what I make. I care about, like, agriculture and the laborers, oftentimes the farmhands, the migrant workers, that I care about. Those people have very difficult jobs. The more they're automated, the better.
So Bayer, which has bought Monsanto, has made a clear commitment that the plant-based, it's a chain, yeah? We'll do the same agriculture that is leading to actions which are forcing the Dutch farmers to respond and shut down Holland. But we'll now expand it on a larger scale, drive every farmer off the land. We will own all the land. Bill Gates is already the biggest farmland owner of America. But if you look at how quickly land is being grabbed, and even the Dutch phenomena is a land grab phenomena, if you look how quickly land is being grabbed, it is for an economy without people an economy of even more external inputs, more capital intensive. But it's an economy that ensures that most humans as producers are driven off, and most humans as consumers only get worse food.
Vandana, will you explain to me how the land grab idea works? For example, in the case of Dutch farming, or in your own country, how does the
This is what vague anti-capitalist rhetoric without socialism to guide it looks like.
globalist agenda extract land? Land grab idea works? For example, in the case of Dutch farming, or in your own country, how does the globalist agenda extract land from independent farmers? How does it work?
Well, we shouldn't forget that colonialism was a globalist agenda, where one little island nation where we are sitting decided that the land in India was theirs.
We were just trying to help.
And they basically said the land belongs to them, so the peasants of India had to pay a rent. And then they appointed...
Wait, is this seriously it? According to a 2021 article, Gates owned 242,000 acres of farmland through 2 investment management firms. That's it? In America? In the United States of America, the gigantic country we live in? The U.S. Department of Agriculture says there are nearly 1 billion acres of farmland in the United States, so Gates would own 0.027% of U.S. farmland. Okay.
landlords to collect the rent. They created an administrative system where our administrators...
Yeah, that's still a flowed, but like, it's not exactly a controlling share in agriculture.
Even today is called a collector because his job was to collect the rents and send it out here. Land grab is the way wealth is controlled. Because even though the Baconian Cartesian idea and the fictions of capitalist theory, Adam Smith, that nature creates scarcity, we create the wealth, that is a denial of nature's creativity. And by denying nature's creativity, you rob the land and then move her creativity to your service.
What?
And that is what is at the agenda still today. They want the earth to be creative for them while continuing to deny that she's creating. Because
What? We need the crack pipe again? Yeah. Isn't this just pseudo? This is like spiritual bullshit. There's nothing to, there's nothing even to debunk here. It's just like woo-woo hippie crap. Will I call it woo-woo hippie crap with a person with a bindi? Yeah, I will. Because woo-woo hippie crap is universal. It's a unifying element. Crystals speak. Unifying element of human behavior.
they are the creators. The Dutch, the agriculture minister said very clearly about 50 to 70% of the farmers must go. And if they don't change their practices, and he's not facilitating them to change their practices to the...
Bullshit.
Minister said very clearly about 50 to 70% of the farmers must go.
Did at any point the Dutch PM say 50 to 70% of their farmers have to go? No way. Zero chance that's the case. No head of state would ever be like, yeah, we just need to gut 2/3 of this vital industry for life. There's literally no chance at all. What I'd be willing to bet he said was that 50 to 70% of existing agricultural businesses use unacceptable levels of nitrogen and ammonia in their fertilizer. Which, again, kind of sounds like she's defending the farmers here, even though the farmers are the ones who are protesting to keep the ammonia and nitrogen in their artificial fertilizer. I think they want to downsize the number of livestock because the emissions are so bad. Well, that's good. That's not the same as getting rid of the farmers, though. Getting rid of the cattle is based. The meat industry is incredibly destructive. And also, on her Wikipedia page, she was talking also about how the meat industry is destructive. So she should be in favor of what the Dutch government is doing here.
And if they don't change their practice...
God is a Dutchman. Mods, you have my permission to ban any salty Dutch in chat. Sky Knight, you were bitching earlier. Listen, there are two things I hate. Intolerance and the Dutch, okay? That's the thing the livestock industry is what the Dutch protests are about. Nothing that I have said is incorrect. Nothing frustrates me more than when I know enough about a subject to know that a person is wrong, but not enough to write like a dissertation on it. And I say something that indicates another person is wrong, and chat's like, okay, but that's not like a dissertation would disagree with you. It doesn't matter. I can't know everything about everything all the time. I try. It's not easy.
Practices, and he's not facilitating them to change their practices to the ecological viable option that would not generate billionaire profits. That would give back life to the earth. And we are doing a course, 1st to 12th of October, on return to earth. How can we repair the earth and become free ourselves? he has said, the agriculture minister said very clearly, and if they don't shift immediately.
Everything you said about the Dutch situation was wrong, XT. It's about livestock, not plant farming. Okay, hold on. By the way, even if that's the case and it doesn't involve fertilizer, nothing that I've said would be wrong fundamentally, because she should still be ideologically opposed to the interests of the protesters. Like, the basic point is still true. Government plans to rein in emissions of nitrous oxide, ammonia. Reduction targets could radically alter the Netherlands' lucrative agriculture sector, which is known for its intensive farming, and may foreshadow similar reforms in other European nations. As if livestock produced drastically reduced by nature, it's a ruling coalition wants to cut emissions of pollutants, predominantly nitrous oxide and ammonia, by 50%. Ministers cause this unavoidable transition. Honest message, not all farmers can do business. Livestock produce ammonia in their urine and feces. Gross. The government in the past called farmers use feed for their animals to gain less protein. Okay. Yeah, it seems to be primarily livestock. I appreciate the correction. However, it's important to understand that this doesn't change the point that I made against her at any point, because she's also ideologically opposed to this, and the reason she was complaining about artificial fertilizers was because it produced the same or similar environmental outcomes as what is produced through this livestock farming. I appreciate the correction, but I don't think it fundamentally changes anything about the problems with her statement. Bosch, the problem with artificial fertilizers is well known. It's not conspiracy BS. I've never said that it's conspiracy BS that there are problems with artificial fertilizers. She charges $40,000 per lecture plus travel and accommodation. Jesus.
Their land will be taken. Now, governments don't do cultivation. In Soviet Russia, they used to, but most governments don't do the cultivation themselves. What will happen is, from this, there aren't that many farmers left anyway in Netherlands. Take the remaining farmers' land and hand it over to the corporations and the billionaires. And the corporations are no more corporations that are independent. As my book, One versus 1% shows.
Wait, is she saying the government forces the private farmers to pair up with the conglomerates? They get bought out. I don't know what the case is in like more authoritarian countries, but in liberal democracies, the way this happens is that big conglomerates buy up the smaller farms and leverage their larger capital and economy of scale to outproduce them and be more efficient. They don't, the government doesn't just go like, yeah, your private farm is done and gay, and also it's now part of Bill Gates's conglomerate. Okay.
Every one of them is owned by the asset management funds of the billionaires. The BlackRocks, the Vanguards, the State Streets. 70%. So the money of the billionaires is deciding the policies, they're deciding the narrative, they're deciding what the newspapers, the Guardians and the BBC will say. They are deciding what people will do and what people will know.
So, again, critical point here. The idea that the billionaire class controls the media, at least to a large extent, is not like a shockingly conspiratorial one. There's definitely a lot of influence. However, controls them to what end? What are we talking about? The average voter only cares about the quality and cost of the food that they get, how available it is. Like, that's what they care about. If big conglomerates are able to use artificial fertilizers to make a ton more food, and thus flood the market and make it cheaper, the average consumer will like that. They don't need to manufacture a narrative. People will vote in politicians that push for policies like that.
There's a very interesting facet of this, that there is to a degree centralized ownership. Friends of mine that are, that understand venture capitalism, for example, better than I do, and God knows that's not a high.
People don't want seed oil in everything they eat. I don't know what seed oil is. What is seed oil? Like canola oil? What oil do you want? Like vegetable oil? What oil do you want in your foods? Foods have oils in them. What do you want? Does it all have to be fish fat? What do you mean? Sunflower oil? What is it? What? Can't fish oil make you cum more? Common vegetable oils include soybean oil, sunflower oil, olive oil, and coconut. Can I have my olive oil for my Italian food? Can I still have olive oil? Oh, it's zinc that. Oh yeah, zinc makes you cum more. I can't have that? Okay.
qualification, would say that like a company like Vanguard or BlackRock, they're so diffuse and decentralized because there's so many participants that it's difficult for there to be a centralized agenda. But you would say that that agenda is already being provided by the sort of motifs and imperatives of capitalism as already established, I suppose. And Vandana, that's fascinating.
Yes, gigantic investment firms with trillions of dollars of assets that they manage will do things in line with their capitalist interest. It's infuriating to me how they say the most obvious shit and frame it in a conspiratorial way. That's not even remotely conspiratorial. That's like, have you ever noticed that whenever we go to war and the king's men pillage the other villages and bring gold back to the palace, that gold is put into the nation's treasury and he uses that gold to the interest of the nation? Isn't that funny? No, it's not funny. That's very not funny. It's very straightforward. It's very obvious, actually. Yes, of course. Hold on, that's explicitly not what she's saying. She's saying it's centralized. What? Yes, centralized in the billionaire class, in line with capitalist interests. They don't really know what centralization means. They think centralization means, like, operating within class interests, as opposed to, like, the more principled economic and political forms of centralization that we tend to talk about. Again, they're deliberately politically incoherent. It makes it harder to criticize them.
In that a media narrative can be controlled in that way, that land can be extracted in that manner, that it is a reiteration and a repeat of the colonial models of the previous centuries, which in my mind had a certain elan and a certain style. They were done under the emblem of a royal family. I'm just being patriotic. I'm not pro-colonialism. I'm against it. Just I was aware that you were Indian and I was British while that was happening. I was thinking, I'm being blamed for this.
Not you.
I'd have been one of those witches in the woods trying to get down with nature. They'd have got me first. I was thinking there that honestly, one of the things that bothers me, this apparent the ongoing culture war, which seems to exist between sort of traditional, maybe, and one aspect of tradition could be patriotism, and progressive politics, and one aspect of that could be identity politics. This sort of ongoing conflict between them often uses ideas around ecology and climate. There's an assumption that the right is not interested in the environment, even though they're interested in their nation, which is, of course, a natural entity at its heart. And I wonder...
How the fuck is a nation a natural entity? What does that even mean? What does that even mean? I could be stretching here, but I'm pretty sure this is deeply fascist rhetoric. The fascists live for the nation state, and they often believe that the nation state is like an inevitable and intrinsic expression of like ethnic or national identity in a given area. Like a nation state isn't just like a thing humans build. It's like a manifest property of human existence, you know? Yeah, that's very weird. Yeah, okay. Like blood and soil, yeah. I'm gonna be charitable and assume it's a joke from him. I mean, it's impossible to tell. Like, he says dumb shit all the time. It's really hard to know. If he means like the land the nation's borders are drawn around is a natural entity, then, I mean, okay. Is it possible he's saying a nation contains nature? I mean, that's the point. He's deliberately incoherent, right? Like, that's the point.
It seems that one thing that bothers me, many things bother me, but one thing that bothers me is their awareness of these corporations, of the potency and validity of ecological arguments, because they are willing to use them. For example, I'm sure you're familiar with like ESGs and greenwashing, the sort of systems of reward that are deployed within the corporate world in order to exhibit apparent ecological awareness while not really doing anything. What do you think of these, in my view, disingenuous and phatic movements?
Well, just like there's green wash, there's social wash, there's justice wash. But the green of those leaves that are actually fixing atmospheric carbon dioxide and giving us the breath, our breath, is coming from those leaves. We are those leaves, yeah? Through the interconnectedness of the oxygen that is feeding our lungs. I think a big part of forgetting is that we are being made to forget that the finance that's being used to control is a fictitious wealth.
What? This isn't a response to the question that he asked. He asked how she feels about corporations disingenuously, like pretending to be like green energy or like environmentally friendly associated for like corporate profit. Oh, was she not listening? Okay, yeah.
Wealth means the state of well-being.
What?
You know, when you do breathing and you do yoga, you are in a state of well-being. Can't be measured in money. But this first it was turned into capital, now it's turned into finance, and now it's being turned into natural asset corporations, a whole new invention they've created.
What? Capital and finance aren't mutually exclusive. Natural asset. What did she say?
Turned into natural asset corporations, a whole
Do you mean a corporation that controls natural assets? Because that is as old as capital and finance.
new invention they've created.
It's not-
ESG is old. Now they want to own entire forests, entire rivers, entire land.
That's not new. What? That's like civilization old.
If you look at what was proposed by Rockefeller Foundation, which is the precursor to Bill Gates, he learned his game from them.
Isn't it crazy how in their spurious, inconsistent critiques of capitalism, they always find a way to bring up the same couple family names, like every time? Like, we're not going to bring up Nestle or whatever. Like, you know, we barely touched Monsanto. You know, Bill Gates, though, I'm surprised Soros hasn't come up. Now, I mean, she specifically hates Bill Gates, though. That's like a specific thing for her.
Gates is, you know, every time he gets into trouble, he turns to what did the Rockefeller do to save their reputation. Rockefeller Foundation with the Wall Street,
What trouble?
1 month before the Glasgow Summit on Climate, launched this whole new natural asset companies. Companies that will own the natural assets in terms of the ecological services of nature. So instead of that leaf giving me my breath, that leaf's oxygen will be property, an asset to be traded. And they've created a very
It's not new. That's the same as trees producing fruit. Also, to my knowledge, no company is currently selling oxygen from plants, unless you mean like trading carbon credits or whatever. Also, when has Bill Gates ever had to like save his reputation? Apart from like far-right conspiracy theorists and vaccine deniers, I think Bill Gates has been like pretty chill for a while. I don't think he's attracted that much like condemnation.
complex financial mechanism, and they actually
Epstein stuff? I don't even think he got that much hate, any Epstein shit. Like, I didn't even hear him get brought up that much for it. Like, yeah, I don't know what that has to do with.
aiming at having in their hands $4,000 trillion. $4,000 trillion. While people lose their homes, people lose their food.
4 quadrillion. Wait, what?
And they've created a very complex financial mechanism, and they're actually aiming at having in their hands $4,000 trillion. $4,000 trillion.
Wait, they're aiming to have it? What? Well, the world GDP is 85 trillion, so that'd be pretty impressive. Yeah, I also want $4,000 trillion. That sounds rad, dude. You could buy the moon, and also the whole planet Earth, I think. Those numbers are close to the total value of Earth. Did she just, like, rattle off, like, the hypothetical value of, like, every single asset on the planet? Okay.
While people lose their homes, people lose their food, people lose their work, people lose their ability to live. So
So what do we want to do to help the proletariat?
I think this fictitious money and the stories that get told about how it was created with all kinds of invention and innovation. Innovation means only to make new. And yet the people who steal, the pirates, the people who stole our knowledge, our seeds, our basmati, our wheat, call themselves inventors just because they can claim a patent. A patent is not a reflection of an invention. So much has been stolen. And said, we invented it. The neem that controls pests without killing people. We invented it.
Okay.
The seed, what my life's dedication to the seed has been, Monsanto, you did not invent the seed. You cannot take a patent on seed. Seed is evolution and continuity and creativity for billions of years and thousands of years of human farming. And you cannot take what is created by nature, created by people, and say, I invented it. And what is created by nature, created by people, and say, I invented it.
If it's created by people, I think you actually can say that. I think that is how patents work, actually, if people create it. I have issues with the legality of GMOs and like patenting and IP law on genetic alterations to crops and stuff. But I am flabbergasted at the argument you can't patent something when it was made by people.
And I think this false claim to appropriation as invention, appropriation as creativity, I think we are reaching the peak of it because everything's being patented. You're being patented, I'm being patented, our data's being patented. You know, we are big data, we are minds of big data. We are like a bauxite mine now.
Yes, I feel this process of turning all aspects of reality into a kind of centrally owned node, an expression of a deeper financial truth, is being enacted. You said earlier, and
have they even touched on what can we do to fix this problem? At any point?
Referred to several times the fundamental denial of nature that underwrites this ideology.
What does that mean? Guys, the fundamental denial of nature is we are not at its apex. The fundamental denial of nature was probably much more common during like the 19th and early 20th centuries. Back during the like big the explosion of industrialization, that was when humans were at the apex of like through steam engines and cogwheels, humanity will replace nature. Like nature is like the bedrock upon which we will build a factory that reaches the atmosphere, you know? The idea of like treasuring nature is a relatively recent phenomena. We actually care about it more than we used to. Yeah. Preservationists, like the idea of saving species, like a lot of this shit is just not... Yeah. Like, it just wasn't around back then. We're not currently at that point of denial of nature. Like, not as bad as it used to be, at least.
Evocation of this nature may be part of a rebuttal.
This is Western history speaking. Yes, I am talking about Western history. I am talking about post-industrialization, Western Europe, America, and so on. That is true. Please check my cultural biases. Thank you.
To the ongoing colonization that you describe. Do you see cause, Vandana, for optimism in the current anti-globalist movements, the current farmer protests, and how might we infuse...
The farmer protests are being funded by the gigantic agricultural conglomerates that want more nitrogen and ammonia in the soil. See, look, they're talking in support of the farmer protests. Even though those farmer protests are being prompted by, like, wealthy agricultural groups in the Netherlands trying to reduce the government's ability to promote ecological well-being.
Use these localized issues that it appears to me can be easily undermined with ideals and ideas that might provide some more cohesion and an ability to succeed.
Well, you know, the power of nature is always at work till we become blind and denied. And that's why, for me, Bacon, as the father of modern science, saying nature has to be subjugated. We have to give birth to a new masculine time of domination. And we will be superheroes controlling the world.
This is not representative of the modern era. This would have been 100 years ago. Nowadays, it's overwhelmingly more popular, the idea of, like, living with and synthesizing nature. Like, guys, national parks used to not be a thing. It was... Okay, never mind. Just, yeah, okay.
Through this new mechanistic reductionist framework, which was called science, that was at the heart of denial of seeing the power of nature, the creativity of nature, and also calling all the cultures that live that creativity as unscientific, not evidence-based. Life is the highest evidence.
What?
Data is not the highest evidence. A good...
Okay, yeah. Hippie, woo-woo, spiritualism, crystal speak, yeah. This is some novel stuff. Yeah, the funny thing is that, like, this is, like, self-projected, like, noble savage shit or whatever. It's like, really, really gross, I think. Westerners do it to, like, Native Americans. Like, people all over the world do it to some group. Some groups do it to themselves or whatever. The idea of, like, like, there being some perfect state of nature that humanity used to live in accord with, that we've, like, overcome and destroyed, is total bullshit. The Native Americans fucked up nature too. Everyone fucked up nature. The only thing that determines how fucked up nature gets, really, are, like, prevailing cultural attitudes and the level of industrialization. And that's basically it. We've had more and less positive attitudes towards nature as time, like, ebbs and wanes, but there's no, like, perfect synthesis with nature. Go back through any culture, any civilization, any period of time, any civilization that made it past agriculture will have had an antagonistic relationship with nature. Of course they do. Do you think those, like, Chinese rice farmers were building those massive, like, rice fields in harmony with nature? No! They were chopping down forests. They were, like, full clearing areas. They were redirecting rivers. They were doing everything within their technological ability to maximize crop yield. Every culture does this. Past agriculture only? Yeah, because agriculture is like the beginning of humans settling down and building civilization, basically, kind of. Yeah, like we all do that. Yeah, probably soaked on laugh, though it feels like it's wasted with like shit like this, because like what do you even say here?
Good, healthy body through yoga and Ayurveda. It's the body that is the evidence, not a reductionist data. So I think the ecological movement, the deep ecological movement, not this greenwashed propaganda of the corporations and the billionaires, that to me is a violation. It's a violation of nature. It's a violation of everything we know. But what we've seen with the Dutch protests, but you know, these 2 days while I've been in England, has been amazing. 5 leaders gone. Boris Johnson lost his prime ministership. The president of Sri Lanka has had to run away from his palace, which has been overtaken by people. Wow. Abe has been shot dead.
Hey, what led to the discontent that got the Sri Lankan president to flee the capital? Hey, Vandana Shiva, what made the people angry? I can't believe she's celebrating that. They're starving because of you. Oh my God. You backed the policy. They're gonna starve to death. Oh my God. She's like the Joker. She's like the fucking Joker, dude. Watching the world burn. Yeah, President of Sri Lanka, trust me, your impoverished nation will benefit from immediately moving off effective fertilizers in your agriculture. Then when the country's starving and people are occupying the president's palace, she's like, haha, that guy's gone now. Whew, that's funny. Jesus.
He used to promote militarism for Japan. You know, so we've just seen these people who look totally powerful because they were protected by the big corporations.
Shiva the Destroyer. God.
And the big billionaires from whom they were getting instructions. And during the COVID period, you know, they looked infallible, you know. They'll never crumble. We've seen the power of people on the streets everywhere. But I think till the power of people and the power of nature, you know, if they converge, we will be powerful. That's why our effort has to be to prevent the divide and rule policies, you know. I don't think we can afford the ecological agriculture movement to be pitted against the conventional farming movement. Together, we've got to say, we will take care of the earth. That's why we won't allow land grab.
Because
so by land grab, she means independent farmers selling their properties to larger farming conglomerates. Does she think nature is conscious? She absolutely thinks nature is conscious.
Challenges is, as you allude to, there is a kind of a great methodology to prevent cohesion appearing. It's like the idea that the current Dutch farm protest could somehow align with an ecologically oriented protest movement seems at this stage antithetical, because even in the framing Vandana, it's like, if you watch on normal news, it will say what's happening is these farmers, they're maniacs, they want to use fertilizer that's bad for the earth, and we've introduced this global regulation that's
he said fertilizer too. Okay, it's not just me. Wait, does he know as much about those protests as I do? Huh.
For Mother Earth, prevent that. And so it's very difficult for that conversation to get off the ground. When you say there that that you believe that leaders get their instruction from corporations, even still, this is regarded as the terrain of the conspiratorial. People, if you say stuff like that, other than you actually, perhaps because you've bothered to learn some facts first, like when people say stuff like that, it's dismissed. People somehow find it hard to engage in that. People find it hard to engage in the idea that it's literally true that democracy is redundant, almost irrelevant, that power takes place at a globalist level.
What the are you saying? What are you saying? Every single fucking time this guy opens his mouth, he rides the goddamn the fucking diarrhea Waterworld slide until he arrives at the same pool of, yeah, the globalist elites control the world. We get it. Yes, we live in a capitalist system. Capital is the force that rules the world. Capitalists do business across borders. Yes, we know. Everybody knows. Holy shit. He was just about to start defending the far right-backed, big megala conglomerate-backed Dutch protests that are in favor of less ecological regulations. But then he channeled off of that and started talking about the same thing he talks about every time he opens his mouth. He was about to do something definitively ideologically incorrect, but he couldn't because he's so stupid that his nematode brain dragged him towards the only talking point he has memorized.
Politicians are to some degree appointed by corporations, and the idea that an agenda that is supportive of the needs of human beings and of nature could be pursued is like people have kind of forgotten it.
No! Nobody has forgotten that corporations have a powerful influence in our democracies. That belief is more common today than it has ever been in all of human history. It has never been more believed than it is right now.
Yeah, but I think the erasure of memory is intentional.
Oh,
And that's why everywhere history is being rewritten.
oh
That's why
my
because
God!
it is rewritten to make us forget. We must connect. Yeah, that's what I did in India.
It's what conspiracy theories live off of. The conspiracy theorist has to be like the genius, like insightful man who can see the truth when no one else can. Every conspiracy theorist has to believe that they're the protagonist and they live. Just 5.7 million protagonists in They Live. So like when the smart lady and the smart guy say, did you know that like corporations are powerful? Most people have forgotten this. You get to go, brain blast! I haven't forgotten. I remember this basic sociological fact that everyone learns when they're 8. Whoa! Wowie! Zowie! And then you put the sunglasses on and whoa, everything's so different now. Holy shit! Now I see the world as one might after graduating middle school. Holy shit!
I worked with the farmers to remember that 1857 revolt against the East India Company, which shut the East India Company down, was a bread revolt. You know, farmers were being killed for not paying the taxes that were killing them. And so the farmers said, we'll reclaim our bread and our freedom. And because they were being arrested and
shit.
killed, when they talked, they started to
no.
give bread to each other. And that's how the movement spread. When we
I'll read
had to
Jonas in a
launch the
bit.
movement for seed freedom, I went back to Gandhi and his spinning wheel. He said, there was an empire of cotton where we were being impoverished, our farmers were dying. What did we do? We started to spin our own cloth. And I said, growing your own seed, growing your own food today is the freedom of today. And those who say these are conspiracy, well, just look at the rules of WTO and globalized.
Almost no one knows this bitch here in India. Yeah, of course. Like, she obviously makes her living, like, selling this ideology to Western markets. Everyone can grow their own food. Farmers can already grow their own food. I mean, I guess if you live in a city, you can't. I don't even know what she's talking about. Yeah, and growing your own food is not freedom, by the way. Growing your own food is inefficient. It sends you back 10,000 years to the inefficiencies of the earliest days of agriculture. Sustenance farming sucks. It's literally the lowest level of civilization. That's not a joke. It's literally the first thing we did after settling down and building civilizations. Everything we've done since then has been an improvement on that. Freedom is not adopting the economic and social obligations of a 8 millennia BC peasant in the Sumerian Valley. A Mesopotamian potato chipper, whatever the that means, is not more free than a modern person.
Free trade. Who wrote the intellectual property agreement of WTO? Monsanto, they admitted it. Who wrote the agreement on agriculture that's destroyed all the self-reliance and food sovereignty of people? You know, everyone's talking about the Ukraine war and Russia. But the reason African countries are hungry is because their ability to produce their food was destroyed by the right to dump by Cargill. Cargill wrote the agreement on agriculture. And then the junk food industry, the Pepsis and Cokes and Nestle's, wrote the sanitary and phytosanitary agreement and created the Codex Alimentarius to shut down healthy food and pushed the food that gave us illnesses, 75% chronic diseases. This is not a conspiracy. There is evidence that the corporation.
I mean, she's lying about a ton of this, but I'm not going to contest the narrative that Western corporations f things up in Africa, just generally. To get into the specifics would require me to Google Wikipedia pages, and we've already been on this for way too long, and in half an hour we're talking to an organizer. This is a one where on like her vibe is correct, but in the specifics I have no doubt that she's incorrect on essentially everything she said.
Wrote the rules, then it created the billionaires. Now the billionaires rule the world. And I call them the 1%, not because they're big. There is evidence that the corporations wrote the rules, then it created the billionaires. Now the billionaires rule the world. And I call them the 1%, not because they're 1%, they're just a handful. And when you ask me, what's the optimism? For me, the optimism is a pathetic group of ignorant, selfish men are not more powerful than all the people who've occupied the palace of the president in Sri Lanka. The farmers who've occupied the streets of Netherlands. People have...
What if she's just the world's stupidest accelerationist? What if she caused a famine in Sri Lanka because she wanted to see the president deposed? What if she's actually like a freedom warrior, but in the most destructive way possible, in a utilitarian sense?
Power. We've been made to think we are inert. We've been made to think nature is inert. And all it is a colonization of our mind. The minute we become free and say, we are part of nature, we are creative, and we are powerful. Powerful in a different way. Powerful in the way of Shakti. Powerful in the way of non-violent resistance, of absolutely refusing to be colonized.
What do you propose?
Yes. So I understand. So we have to
making fun of the fact that they're both incoherent.
First the awareness, and then the awareness of the power.
And
God, I wish I could talk to either one of them. I could make them look so stupid. Holy shit. I want to start with her because she caused a famine, and that's higher tier on the evil list than Russell Brand. But I think Russell Brand would be more fun because I feel like I could ask her anything, and she would like go on a 2-minute ramble about something unrelated to what I asked. Russell Brand, I think, would actually respond to what I say, and I think he'd get really angry really quickly. He seems to me like a person who cannot stand up to direct confrontation at all. She could, I think. I don't think he could.
from there flows the fact that today a conventional farmer might be farming differently, but that farmer is still a human being, and that farmer cares for that land. And we have to start connecting that which is common rather than focusing on that which divides us. And I think identity politics of our times is being created.
Farmers don't tend to the land. Farmers own the farm. Some farmers tend to the land, but I don't even.
By the money machine. Because if I'm a gardener, my identity is a gardener. And this is lovely, you know. When the British tried to create these Muslim-Hindu identities, people would not fill the slot of religion. They would fill the slot of occupation. I'm a gardener. I'm a weaver. I'm a carpenter. And then the British removed the occupation identity. And because we have such mixed identities, people would say I'm Hindu-Muslim because people go to the same shrines. Ajmer Sharif. No, you cannot be both. You know, the excluded middle. That excluded middle and then pitting people against each other is the divide and rule that rulers and empires have always used. And as long as we...
India, famous for not pitting people against each other and dividing people prior to British occupation. You know, they say it was a harmonious, totally egalitarian system. You know, yeah, dude, before British occupation, it was...
And because we have such mixed identities, people would say I'm Hindu-Muslim because people go the slot of religion. They would fill the slot of occupation. I'm a gardener. I'm a weaver. I'm a carpenter. And then the British removed the occupation identity. And because we have such mixed identities, people would say I'm Hindu-Muslim because people go to the same shrines. Ajmer Sharif. No, you cannot be both. You know, the excluded middle. That excluded middle and then pitting people against each other is the divide and rule that rulers and empires have always used. And as long as we focus on being Earth citizens, we are all connected with by this beautiful mother. We are all one humanity. And of course we have different skin colors, you know. I'm a woman, you're a man. It doesn't matter.
No, Vosh, she's right here. The British heavily favored Muslim Indians in colonial administration. Yeah, of course. Of course the British also caused divides. But the way she's implying, like, colonization created those divides. Funnily, her argument works against her here. She's saying that empires and rulers will split people up and pit them against each other to make them easier to control, while referring to pre-colonial India, as like the counterexample. Like, yeah, the first time India was subject to the divide and conquer strategy, it was, of course, with the British invasion. The caste system shit was pretty bad, man. It's pretty cringe.
At the end of it, it's our earth being, our earthiness, and our humanity that are our common denominators.
I understand. They create the sort of systems of definition, and with the system of definition, our nature is chaotic and must be controlled. Human beings are chaotic and naturally conflagratory. Human beings will fight. Unless there is a regulatory body that intercedes, you will destroy each other. I think this is one of the things that I most dislike, is the misanthropic, and if there is such a word for nature, the hatred of nature and of humanity that underwrites these systems, that people are not beautiful, that nature is not beautiful, because there is complexity in human beings and there is complexity in nature, that nature can't be sentimentalized, that there is pain and death in nature, that these aspects have been bolted on to our inherent tendencies towards fear, our desire for comfort, to turn us, as you say, into these kind of inert occupants of a sanitized and immobile penitentiary where our energy is all vacuumed up.
None of this means anything. Literally nothing. Literally zero things. There's nothing is being said here. That was completely void of information. It's actually negative information in that it absorbs. And you guys can't see it because you're looking at this through monitors, but in real life, color data around Russell Brand would have faded out around him. It won't be captured by the camera sensor, but like this post would have been grayscale. Like back here, the leaves, like it just absorbs like a black hole of data. Christ, it's he's just saying random spiritual. It doesn't mean anything. The goal here is not what they're saying; it's the emotions that they're trying to make their audience feel. The point of the conspiracy BS is the point is for the viewer to feel like an enlightened one who knows more than the average sheeple, and that your insight gives you some special power over others. It makes you special, That's the point. All conspiratorial language is about that. I mean, if you want to, like, in a very rote, literal sense, like what he actually said, the only thing that this guy actually said was, some people think that nature and humans are chaotic, and that humans need governments to control them, but they don't think nature can be beautiful because it has death in it, but they want everything to be sterile. None of this means anything. This is like the most deliberately abstract, intellectually vacuous, hippie woo-woo bullshit imaginable. Like, I hope people who are in any way, like, skewed or pulled over by this language can watch it and understand that, like, you're being taken for a ride, man. Like, anyone can say anything, as long as it has the right vibes, and you'll get behind it. It's a masterwork in saying nothing with as many words as possible. This is a 37-minute video between a political commentator and ostensibly an activist, and not only have they said several things which directly ideologically contradict their supposed positions here, they've also not indicated a single specific solution to anything that they're pointing out. And those solutions matter, because it doesn't take a brain genius to vaguely gesture at a problem. Anyone, it doesn't matter if they're like a sane person or if they're in a fucking nut house. It doesn't matter if they're a Nazi or a socialist. Anyone can like do this and be like, I think there's an issue with the fact that we've become like dissociated from the things that make humans the way they really are. Literally anyone can say that. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. Any person of any disposition, ideology, level of intelligence can say that. It means nothing. The solutions are important because that's when you actually catalyze the problem. That's when you actually like you bring it back down to earth. But they can't do that, of course.
Would vacuumed up away from us. But so then you believe, may I ask, Mandana, that the individualized awakening, the individualized awakening, correctly educated and politicized, is the seed, if I may use your metaphor system, for regrowth?
Well, everything begins.
How insightful! The individual awakening is the seed for regrowth. Thank you, Russell Brand. Thank you. Phenomenal.
In the small that makes it. Yeah. The seed becomes the plant. All of these beautiful trees were seeds.
Really? Is that how that
And
works?
because in every individual, which is interconnected to everything else, the beautiful metaphor in Indian philosophy called Indra's net, that in the node of the net is everything else.
That's genius, dude. We're all connected. I learned that from Avatar: The Last Airbender. I'm so glad I'm watching this.
Because of interconnectedness and the quantum entanglement, we know that. That was my background. That's my PhD,
Ancient Chinese wisdom. We live in a society.
non-locality in quantum theory. Because we are interconnected, and each of us is not an atom in terms of our individuality and autonomy, we are interconnected, self-organized beings. And as self-organized, we can govern ourselves. As
Really? As self-organized, we can govern ourselves, can we? Thank you. You've saved me a trip to the thesaurus for that one. It's true. We have elements that are collective and individual.
interconnected, a change I make. If a quantum particle can make a change to something light years away, human beings changing themselves can start to change everything. And
Causality exists? Is that true? I thought that when I let go of things and they fell, it was a coincidence. My mind is getting cream pied right now. Holy shit.
And I do feel that simple act of eating, simple act of taking care of ourselves is part of an embedded web of life.
What? Eating food is part of the life cycle? Huh? Oh my god. I thought we only did it because of advertisements telling us to. I thought it was George Soros. But in reality, it happens. The life? Oh my god.
That starts to make the changes. If people eat with consciousness, and they tell those farmers in the Dutch streets, we will eat from you, we will not punish you, we will not complain against you, we will work with you to help you go ecological, so that you and we coexist in the future in a beautiful emerging web.
How would citizens work? Hey, question. Wouldn't the way average citizens push farmers to be more ecologically conscious be to vote for politicians who will then put environmental regulations on the farmers? Quick question, guys. In a democracy, by what mechanism do average citizens try to control the ecological regulations on other industries? Ah!
That, I think, is the science. Science tells us that. Ancient spirituality teaches us that. Life
What?
teaches us that. And that's why I don't think anyone should become afraid that they are alone. We are never alone.
What?
The connectedness that can never be taken away from us.
Yes, I see how the sort of what the social conditions that reflect these economic and political ideas are.
I'm a lyrical, spiritual individual.
Sort of a sense of disconnection. This I can speak to personally, that I feel that sometimes that my only power is the power that I can achieve as an individual. Grown in this country, grown in this time, colonized at the level of mind already. I felt like my power is the power that I can attain through their methods, through their systems. But it leaves a hangover and a contamination.
I'm gonna hyperventilate. My brain is being deprived of critical oxygen. Oh my god. I can feel my weight increasing as the gravitational waves surrounding me dampen with the sheer density of this guy's arguments flowing through my earbuds.
It's like left me with the sense of separation, and this is in part what I am trying to overthrow in a kind of an inner revolution, to regain integrity with nature, inner and outer, after a sort of a difficult process of self-commodification. Thank you very much, Vandana, for the way that you explained.
Such a
Thank
joy.
you.
And love.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, amazing.
That conversation was
No, we're done. Stop. Is it too late to get back on board with eugenics? I take it back. I think at any social costs are worth it if it means preventing some people from being born. Specifically those two people and those two people only. Any damage done to the species, if it can prevent this tragedy from happening again, will be worth it. Literally anything. I will support any ideological cause if it prevents these two from being reborn in the future. All right. I'll show you guys what utilitarianism looks like. I'll show you. Holy shit. God, that was painful. We didn't even learn about seed oil. Oh, God. Jesus Christ. I have a higher woo tolerance than Vosh, haha. I have no woo tolerance. This is why I hate spirituality. I need 50 cc's of DMT stat. God, please, yes. Anything to up the tolerance. She claimed GMO soil causes COVID. I have no doubt she believes that.